We interrupt this website for a special announcement. My name is Victor Tiffany. I'm the co-author of this book described below and the rest of this website. But first, we have very important information. We have found 6 categories of voters who will not be voting for the Democratic Party nominee unless it's Bernie Sanders. First, obviously, us. We are about 48,000 strong and building toward 100,000 by the time the primaries begin next year. We're almost one of the smallest groups of these 6. Far smaller than us are the Democratic Socialists of America. They passed the Bernie or Bust resolution. And it's very weak tea. It just says that the organization is not going to endorse the Democratic Party nominee unless it's Bernie Sanders. And of that, it was a narrowly passed resolution. So out of 58,000, maybe 26,000 will consider not endorsing the nominee, not supporting the nominee, not voting for the Democratic Party nominee unless it's Bernie Sanders. So maybe 5,000, 10,000 of those Democratic Socialists will not vote for someone like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or Elizabeth Warren. We don't know, but that's the smallest number of this group. Bigger than the Bernie or Bust group are the Bernie or Trumpers, the swing voters who endorse Bernie Sanders, and they're telling pollsters that if Bernie's not the nominee, they're voting for Trump. Right? There's 50% more of them, according to polling after the 2016 election, than there are Bernie or Busters. That's 3 groups. The 4th group, again related to Bernie or Bust, comes from an essay award winner published in the New York Times. And she claims that she's part of the Bernie or Bust generation to be voting for the first time next year. These are post-millennial young folks, first-time voters. So 18 and 19-year-olds. There are about 8.8 to 9 million of them. If only 10% of them are Bernie or Bust, and unfortunately she defines that as staying home, but nevertheless, that's 440,000 or more voters who will not be voting for a Democrat next year unless it's Bernie or Bust. Now add up those 4 groups, and you will not it will not add up to the amount of voters in the next category. The next to the largest category are poorly educated voters. According to French political economist Thomas Piketty, in an essay published in 2018, poor people and poorly educated people will only come out and vote for a Democratic Socialist, Social Democrat is what he called them, which is the equivalent of Democratic Socialist. These are millions of people who will stay home unless the nominee is Bernie Sanders, a Democratic Socialist, because they want his policies. They want higher minimum wage. They want free college education so they can improve their lives or their children's lives. They need Medicare for all. They can't be jumping through loopholes and paperwork. They need to be registered for health care as a human right. These are millions of people who will not vote for any other candidate besides Sanders. So if the Democrats want to shoot craps on another candidate, any other candidate, and think that they can defeat Donald Trump without a crash in the stock market or a recession, because that'll change this dynamic. If the Democrats want to defeat Donald Trump, there's one candidate who will get all these supporters, or most of these supporters, most of these voters, to back him. And one more point about poor people and poorly educated people. There's one candidate who has an army of volunteers. One candidate who has people going door to door with a special app registering voters who are not registered and making sure that they support Bernie Sanders, of course, and if they do, arranging to have them transported to the polls on Election Day. One candidate. That's Bernie Sanders and the Bernie app. So the Democrats want the strongest force of voters, this winning coalition of poor people and the whole range of Bernie or Busters and poorly educated people, along with the blue no matter who Democrats. They will, if they're honest about that, they'll get behind Bernie Sanders. Whereas these other people will not get behind any other Democrat. That's a winning coalition that can defeat Donald Trump, very possibly the only coalition, barring a recession, who could defeat Donald Trump. Thank you. Please look over the website, check out the acclaim the book had, and get your copy today. Don't forget, read it and share it. Thank you.